brag about the student work. So this is really a cheap shot. I'm going to take the best of the students' work and I'm going to share it with you. And I have never done this before, so we'll see exactly how it works. It may be a little rough. You could probably give me some technological tips after we go through this. But first, let's just look at the big old symbol. So what's the truth behind that symbol? Is there truth in that symbol? There's truth and there's not truth, right? Okay, so what's the truth in that symbol? It's the planet, yeah. It's the recycling symbol. Everything's connected, right? Biosphere, all that stuff. And I'm not going to say lie, but what's the kind of, well, what can I say? What's the right word? What's not true about that symbol? If you see that symbol on something, what is it? Does it tell you that you can recycle it? Yeah, it's kind of PR, right? It says on some place, on some planet, it can be recycled, but probably not here, right? So we see that the concept is ubiquitous, but the reality is very spotty. The reality, if you're in Fairfield, where I live, you'll see that on every bit of plastic that I have in my house, I can only recycle 2 of the numbers that reside inside that little triangle, right? But it's a great concept. Now, but what are the 3 R's? Reduce, reuse, and recycle, right? Which one's the most expensive? You guys know this? Recycling. Recycling is actually the craziest one, right? It takes the most energy, it takes the most money, it takes the most transportation. And yet, it's our green goal. It's the great good, right? I recycle. Well, so what? You know, in fact, in my class, you're not allowed to do a project that recycles because it's not environmental enough. It's good manners. I believe that recycling is right now good manners. I don't think it's very idealistic. I think it's just the way to do business. And so the real tough thing to do, the real hard thing is to reduce and reuse. And that's where the challenge is, and that's what I ask the students to do. And so I teach 2 classes. I teach Intro Bio for non-majors. I also teach environmental science. And environmental science, we look at the whole planet. We go through a lot of the things that Dr. Julian talked about. We look at the different systems of the earth, how they fit together. We look at poverty, hunger, all that big stuff. But then in the lab, I ask people to do a project. And this is most of the points, right? So I ask them to do their own environmental action project. So they have to figure out something to make their own life better that's not recycling. Because everybody recycles, right? You have the bin in front of even if you don't, you say you do. So you have to take an action that you can control in your own life. And you have to do it either at home, work, or school. And you have to make sure it's sustainable. It has to be good for the environment and good for you. Then you have to do this 4 to 5 times a week and keep data. And do it for between 2 months, around 2 months, okay, 8 to 9 weeks. In summer, about 5 weeks. And collect the data. What's the coolest new thing, the best way to collect data these days? iPhone. Everybody's got their little app, and so collecting data is a piece of cake. You just have a little app, you just put the stuff right in there. I'm just amazed how good the data is, or it looks pretty good. And you have to keep track of 2 kinds of data. What's the stuff that you're saving, reducing, reusing, and how do you feel about it? What is the work like? What's a qualitative reaction? Either how do you feel about what you're doing, or how does your family or your coworkers or whoever else is with you, how are they responding? Is there pushback from the community? Is there pushback from yourself? Okay? And so they have to have they have to represent this quantitative data and qualitative information about this practice. And so it gets pretty interesting. So the first topic I'm going to share with you is energy, okay? And we're looking at energy so these are just, I kind of cherry pick some of these more interesting projects, and you'll start to see that there's a whole pattern, and I will shorten some of them up so you don't get incredibly bored by them. But we're going to look at things that people do at home, and then things people do relative to transportation. I get lots and lots of projects with transportation, people doing different things with their cars, because, as you know, Californians spend a lot of time in their cars. So now this is where, let's see if I can do this okay. Okay. Click out. This is, okay. And show. Show. It's a little bit slow. Then I go to energy, and I say, it should have been open. What did I do wrong? Oh well, this is there. Someone can help me how to do this better next time. F5. So now this woman was, I would never recommend this, but what she did, she actually turned her whole PG&E power switch off at 9 p.m. every night. She turned off the main. I asked her to make sure her garage door was open in case of a fire. But, you know, I can't control you guys or anyone on Earth. And so she shut down all the power to her house at 9 p.m. and she turned it back on at 6 a.m. every night. And she had a family of like 6 or something that she lived with. And I know, isn't that crazy? PG&E before, gas was $24. After, $26. It sounds like they were using the stove more, right? The electricity went from 100 to 32. So this was, I believe this was a summer project. So she really had some pretty amazing results. And what she did that was really interesting, because she lived in a multi-age family, she actually talked to her mom. Her mom was really worried about safety of food in the refrigerator. Her daughter was really worried about her technology. And her brother actually was a musician who practiced at night. Right. And so that had some stress in the family. Anyway, so the way she collected her qualitative, she had these little family meetings to talk about how this was affecting people. And one of the things she did to resolve some of the safety issues, she bought a bunch of flashlights so that everyone would have a flashlight. And so I asked people, how were they successful? And so they respond if they were successful. Everyone's allowed to fail. And so people are supposed to fail. So failure is built into this project because there's no way you can be successful unless you're lying, right? For something like this. You're trying a whole new behavior. You've got to do it for 10 weeks. How are you going to be 100% successful? I mean, that's just not human nature. So I like to have it built in that people can fail. So we looked at her usage, and this is her kilowatts on one side, and her qualitative data, that's looking at levels of stress. So people have some very creative ways of plotting stress. Some use smiley faces, some do various things. We're not trying to be ultra-scientific here. We're just, get it out there. Somehow express yourself. And let's see, so more data, more information. And that's her family. They lived up in Winters. So she had it was a pretty interesting situation, and they made a lot of adaptations. So we were all very impressed with her project. Again, not something I would encourage people to emulate, but again, people just do what they want to do in this project. Let's see. I thought I had this. Okay. Another one that I found very interesting, and the thread of this follows through a lot of projects. Oh, you're not happy. That's okay. the thread follows through, which is a lot of people like to spend time with their families. And one of the interesting things here is this young woman was going away to college, and she was trying to come up with a project, and it was summer, and it was Fairfield. So those are two different things right for here. And they decided to hang clothes on the clothesline. Okay, obviously a project's not going to work in the winter. It might not ever work in Phoenicia, I don't know. But one of the things that was neat is she talked about how much bonding time she had with her mother as one of her real benefits. And you'll see that there is a number of projects where bonding ends up being a real important value. And then money too, right? Money's helpful. But she was really excited. They had, for some reason, they had already bought one of these little jobs. Another benefit was they got very strong. A disadvantage was they were talking about backaches. But again, the bonding, spending that time together. Obviously takes a lot of time, and you know how clothes are. So jeans are pretty stiff. And so that was kind of a downside of that project. So how did they fix that problem? You know what they did?
Kept the jeans almost dry and put them in the dryer.
They put them in the dryer on air to just pound them soft, right? It's pretty funny. And they looked at how they felt about one another, and it brought them even closer. And actually, I see the parents in Fairfield fairly often, and they still remember that project. They still talk about what a special time that was, which is a little funny. But after doing the project, they didn't like about the stiff clothes. They didn't like the things were heavy, but otherwise they were pretty happy with what happened. Other things I ask students to do is obviously compare their PG&E bills, read the meters daily, and then it didn't make that big a difference, but it made some difference. And I think that was a family of 4. So we'll just leave that guy. Yeah, so another one. Oh, this is what's supposed to be happening. There we go. Except now I don't remember. Oh, right, that's 3. Here we go. Another one that's come up that I knew nothing about, that I learned a lot from the students. Vampire energy or phantom power. Yeah, I mean, right, but 2 years ago I hadn't even heard about that. It was like, well, I turn everything off, you know. And students, I guess I'm learning that a lot of bedrooms are heavily wired, the room that you can control. And so lots of these types of projects, and really educates a lot of students. And so 10% of the power bill is assumed to relate to just having things plugged in, even if they're turned off. 10% of your power bill. That's a lot of money. And so this was in his room. Cell phone charger, laptop charger, iPod, Nintendo, DS, PSP, whatever that is, Nook, camera chargers, electric piano, 2 lamps, surround sound speaker, and printer. I don't think that's that unusual. I mean, it may not be, I certainly don't have that, but it's not that unusual. Now there's some apps, phantom energy apps, and he was able to get that so he could go online and determine that. So he knew what he had and he could find out about it. So what was his technological insight? Was a power strip. So, right, it was really tedious to go around unplugging anything. He finally went, oh yeah, duh, if I got a power strip, I could just unplug the power strip. And so that was his breakthrough. But, you know, I as the instructor, I just sit there and listen. I don't tell anyone about my years of wisdom and experience because it doesn't matter, right? I mean, if you need to learn these things yourselves. and also, obviously some things I don't have any experience with. So he saved quite a lot of energy. And this is another mood chart. This one was pretty good. So the thumbs are either down, neutral, or up. And this was a 9-week project. And so he tracked the mood, how he felt about the project every day. Secondary benefits, he said his parents saw that there was less, the bill went down a little bit. And what a lot of students tell me they learn is time management and organization, just because they've got to fit this thing in to their life. And now one of the things I do is I have everyone do what's called a multiplier effect. So if you do something, even if you do a big thing, it's only a little bit. But then you have to multiply it times 5 people, then times 1,000 people, and then 1,000,000 people. And one of the thoughts I had for Benicia is you could multiply it times your average family size, and then multiply it times how many people in a block, maybe, and then maybe how many people are in Benicia as your multipliers. I don't know. It just was, how do you make this work for Benicia? But anyway, we multiply it, and by the time you do any small project and multiply it out, how many people are in California?
35 million.
37 million. Very good. Yeah, and how many people in the United States? 311. Okay, so 311 million. So California is more or less 10% of the United States, right? And so we're a really good kind of, well, I like to think, a leader, and we represent a significant portion of the United States. Similar practices, I ask people to think about what else could they do like this? What else could they do that would make a difference? I did investing, okay, turn off your lights, and the whole power strip idea was his. Okay. Okay. Now I think after that one. Now this one's a little bit interesting. This guy's a courier. He drives 400 miles a day. That's his job. Okay, he drives from Vallejo to San Jose and back, picking stuff up and dropping stuff off. That's 6 days a week. So obviously, his research has got to be in his car, right? I mean, that's where he lives. And so his idea, which is pretty, he actually goes through 2 cars a year. And he has this whole little scenario about buying cars. Anyway, so his idea was to drive at the speed limit or lower. He ended up driving at 55 miles an hour. 55.
Without getting killed by anybody.
Right, that too, yeah. He wanted to obviously save money and gas and kind of see what happened. So he did that. I try to warn people not to drive that slowly because the police almost always stop young males going below the speed limit. I don't know if you guys know this, but maybe young women too, but it's the young men in my class who've always complained about that. But anyway, he had a logger app on his cell phone. He put a journal in there. He has his manifest, and he noted all that data. And he had to do that for his work anyway. He said he felt like all of these at some point in his practice. And so this is the amount of money he saved. You can see that it kind of tapered off. Partially, it's because he used the per gallon price from the first week, and the price of gas went up over this time span. So the data is not perfect, but obviously still, and these are, so that's 10, 20, 30, 40 on the y-axis. So he summarized his data. How did he feel? Negative, I feel negative. And was he successful? Yeah, he felt pretty successful. Did he have some failures? He had some problems. He had a lot of road rage. He had some police events and some other things that happened to him. So he really found that he was successful. I was shocked. And the surprising thing is he found out that he actually still got places on time, which I never could figure out. But I think because they set out his route based on traffic, that if he's at, anyway, so he was able to get maintain his job with no problems, and he improved his patience and discipline. And the other crazy thing, obviously, is the road rage thing. And so I don't know how, that one is kind of unexpected. We don't know how that's going to, how to avoid road rage. Okay, now this one, here's another fairly amazing project. This guy last summer rode his bike from Napa to Solano College. Every day, twice a day, obviously. He's an athlete. He plays soccer, but still, some of those days were hot. And so they called him the Beast, right? Because he came over the back way. But it was pretty interesting. He didn't miss a day. He did forget his homework a couple days. You can't go back, right? And so he looked at the amount of gasoline he would have spent on various vehicles. And that was when gas was $2.80. Wow. Maybe that was 2 years ago. And so his CO2 emissions, obviously much lower. His mood, he had a really great, he was like a political science psychology major, so his mood scale was very, very nice. Psycho-emotional scale and his physical scale. So you can't see the rest of the physical scale, but the bottom one says Lance Armstrong material. Yeah, 22 each way. And so obviously he's going to reduce his risk of heart disease. He noticed traffic patterns, air quality. Obviously he saw a lot of people. If you're on that commute, he saw people on a regular basis. And obviously a lot of, when we do the multiplier effect, how many pounds moving into tons and tons of carbon dioxide. We have to connect it to other of our activities, and then he noticed, he took pictures of roadkill. Anyway, everyone has their own little bit they bring to this event, to this class. I know. It's always entertaining, right? And I think let's see, what did it? I think, yeah, that one's. Okay, so we did the bike and the car, okay? Let's see, and I'll go F5 here. There's probably a way, anyway. F5. Oops, I should have said from there. Okay, so the next one is when people did things at home, and many people do showers. Many people do shorter showers or various things. So I would say every semester, at least 15 or 20% of students modify their hygiene for the class. And then that same amount of people modify their drinking water. I would say there's at least 3 or 4 people that switch from plastic water bottles every semester. And that's quite interesting, because that's a very prevalent habit. Let's see. Okay. Now, some people, Arish came from, I think she came from Lebanon. Let me see, she came from Lebanon. Anyway, she came from a water poor environment. And, I forgot that she had these little bells and whistles. And so what she did is that she actually caught the cold water that came out before it gets warm enough to use. I mean, I learned all these things from my students, so now I have a bucket right there, So I learned this from Arish. And so she wanted to be a green person. That was how she expressed it, And she was teaching her 2 small children what to do. And so she actually caught the water, measured it in gallon milk bottles. There's lots of different ways of doing that. This was how she showed her feelings. She saved 49 gallons in 9 weeks. And that's just catching the water that comes before you start showering. And what was neat was that her kids saw her doing that, and they started to really like that, and they participated in that. And so her son was watering his plants, and they were watering, and then she used the rest of the water for cleaning around her house. Because she comes from a country that is just so desperate for water, it had a much greater meaning to her than it might for some of us. In fact, wars are fought in her country over water. Let's see. Now, this is a local woman. I don't know if you know Katie. Pretty amazing. So she was part of this crazy summer class that I had. She took military showers. I know. She was nuts. It was summer. She figured this would be really a challenge for her, right? She also is a dancer. So she timed her showers. Then so everyone has to start their week figuring out what their normal, what's normal for me, and then they modify after that. She recorded the water. And her activities. So she was successful, and she also, like a lot of people, figured out that you can turn it off when you're doing something that you don't need to be using the shower water for. That's the amount of water she used per day. How much does the average American use per day in water? How many gallons? 270, and there's another number, 100, that I hear too. But both of them are a lot of water, right? She used, the highest day was about 18 gallons. Yeah. So what she found out was that it really was, the length of time in her shower was due to whether she was dancing, the time of day, and the weather. So she made an assumption that everyone takes an 8-minute shower, which for a lot of you is probably still pretty short, looking around the room, right? So everyone went down to that. We could save, just 5 people could save almost 400 gallons. 1,000 people would save 74,000 gallons. And 1 million people would save 74 million gallons, which is a lot of water. And so, yeah, actually, yeah, billions. We're in the billions. So she just talked about some of the other, we go in the class, we go to the wastewater treatment plant, and we go to other local places to see how water fits into our communities. Is that the one? Oh, no, that's waste. Okay. Water, 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 water. Okay. So I mentioned that a lot of people do water bottles. Many, many students do water bottles, but it's huge, right? The amount of water bottles, if you have that habit, you're really using a lot of bottles. And the other thing is that you're also creating a huge amount of waste. And we go to Potrero Hills landfill, and apparently how many of the plastic water bottles get recycled? I think it's like 10% or something like that. It's a very, very low number, even with the refund on them, and even though you can get money back.
What's the amount of water it takes to bottle the water?
which was what, 5 times? It takes about 3 to 5 times as much water to make a water bottle as it does to fill that water bottle. And what are water bottles made out of?
Petroleum.
What's plastic made out of? Oil. Where do we get our oil from? Not California. Okay, so obviously the benefits are carbon footprint, saving money, cleaner lifestyle. Obviously plastic bottles are a huge problem, and there's chemicals, there's BPA in many of them. They don't break down. And at the end of the day, most people are realizing that unless it's essential, like an emergency situation, they're just not. They're a luxury. They're a luxury. Multiplying it out, obviously there's a huge benefit. Now, looking at waste, students do a lot of waste. They really think about the waste. Again, these are things that a student has to be able to control in their own home. How are we doing for time? We're okay? Is this going okay for you guys? It's okay? Okay. Because I just got done watching these last week, right? We had 2 weeks of watching these, so I don't know if they're as interesting to you as they are to me. And so many people do the plastic bag. They switch out plastic bags for cotton bags and other bags. Have you guys all seen that plastic bag video? Yeah, that thing about what, again, plastic bags are made from oil. Oil is imported. And do they biodegrade? And the big garbage patch in the ocean is made up of plastic, and a lot of times those plastic bags are a big component of it. So, let's look at this one. So waste, another funny thing that I never really thought about was that when you buy fast food, you basically are buying a lot of waste, right? Because all the packaging. I never really got that either. And so Delia wanted to not eat fast food. She had many non-environmental goals, but she had some environmental goals as well. I think everyone who went to the Potrero Hills landfill was amazed by what they saw. And the landfill is very supportive of getting rid of plastic bags, by the way. They actually give us all recycling bags. So she had a variety of goals. And she basically, this is her weight loss. She did great on that. She was pretty successful. When you have a busy life, school, work, family, other people, fast food can be a real, become almost a necessity, not a luxury. And so that is a challenge for a lot of people. And so here she's showing her schedule when she just doesn't have time. You'd have to buy the food, prepare it the night before, pack it, keep it cold, do all those things, or go to the drive-thru. She basically counted and weighed the leftover materials and figured out that 18 pieces of litter was what she would have collected every week, which seems low actually, but there's a lot of stuff that's wasted. And so also she looked at the food quality, the calories, and the other things related to the food. And here we're looking at McD fries, a Mickey D's Big Mac, Wendy's small chili. These are all her favorite foods. Denny's classic burger. And she's got on this axis, on the y-axis, she's got the calories per item. So that was another insight.
What's the most calories?
That was her, oh yeah, right, you guys can't see that. That's the Denny's classic burger. Yeah. It doesn't come down anymore? It's fixed? Oh yeah. It's electric, okay. It's all the way down, okay. Oh. Ah, yes. Yay. Another technological breakthrough here. Oh, let's help me with that. I think we're going to be good. Oh, what did I do? Oh, my hand, right? Okay, sorry. Well,
And now pull it out.
Oh, right, I can actually do that. Yes. Hey, thank you, thank you. All the help here. Okay, so, yeah, and so people get a lot of insights into their simple habit. I'm just going out to get some fast food. Well, break it down. Break it down to calories, break it down to money, break it down to your car, driving in and out of that place, break it down to calories. You could go to nutrition, you know. So there's a lot of ways to analyze it. And so if a lot of people did that, she just did the multiplier from that small amount of time, 200 million pieces of stuff not going into the landfill. And so she found, one of the things that I've learned is after you change a behavior for like 6 to 8 weeks, it's close to being a new habit. But you have to do it that long. You can't say, I'm going to give it up this weekend or I'm going to change. You have to fail. You have to confirm that you want to do this thing. Or also, so what I do in my classes, I have people check in every 2 weeks and tell me how they're doing. So we get a little bit of peer pressure going on there. And I think what Delia found, right, that last point, Delia is a design major, that there's no laws, and she actually asked the managers, and they said, once we give people the food, it's their problem. And if any of you have done up any cleanup days, like Earth Day or Coast Cleanup, and was it Creek and Ocean? No, what is it called? Coastal Cleanup Day, thank you. When people do that, we find the most stuff around the fast food places, right? Because that's just where people just buy it and throw it away. Let's see, this one is. Now, a neat one, this woman actually did something at work, and that's what I consider one of the hardest things. I really discourage people from doing projects at their job because there's so many forces that are out of their control. But this woman felt comfortable with doing this, and it's just a tiny little thing. So she works the cash register at the Athenian Grill in Sassoon, okay? And we're totally open to her. This wouldn't have probably happened at a franchise, but this worked at the Athenian Grill. And she just asked people if they wanted napkins when they got a to-go order. Really tiny. I mean, it's almost embarrassingly small, right? So she saved hundreds of napkins, right? And where would those napkins have ended up? In the trash. Many of them aren't even used. Many people then, shared in our class that they just throw those away or they end up in their glove compartment. And she realized that most people didn't even need napkins or didn't want them. They were just taking it home. And then she found out that most people were pretty pleased with it. That low point, she told me, was something not in her work life. It was a personal life thing. But, obviously it's going to affect how you are at work. She was successful. She counted everything. Sometimes when it got busy, she wasn't able to count it. She used 185 and saved 218. That's just her shift. And then she found out about all these products that she told her bosses about. There's kind of green chef sites and waste care sites where people can get either recycle things or come up with ideas about minimizing your use. So she found that people, that was a good thing. People weren't upset. Her bosses weren't upset. And even though it was 218 napkins, if that happened at every store around here, there'd be millions saved, which is pretty crazy. Sure. Let's see, so pick one last one and we'll be good. Okay, vegetarian, compost, coffee to go. Coffee to go? Yeah. Vegetarian or coffee to go? Okay, let's see if we can find it. Oh, sorry. EAP waste. This is coffee to go. And one of the things things people started to do that was pretty interesting is that they, rather than becoming a vegetarian entirely, they became a vegetarian like 4 or 5 days of the week, which is really interesting, which I hadn't even considered. So this is a guy who decided to live without Starbucks. He had a very serious addiction. And he wanted to look at the waste. He wanted to save money. He wanted to look at his gasoline. And he wanted to lose weight. Apparently, he wasn't just drinking coffee. So, moods. He recorded the data. He counted things. He passed up 54 cups of Starbucks over that time period. He saved $200. I know, that's a lot of money. And that doesn't count driving there. So he made homebrew for $40. His calories, obviously, are going to be a lot less. It was another of his issues. And he would have driven 110 miles if he'd done it. The other stuff was that this was another thing where he got to spend time with his, he had, this was a little dramatic, I think. I can't see how he could have gotten headaches, but anyway.
Well, did he switch to decaf or something?
I don't think so. I think this was for drama. I think this was...
The amount of caffeine in Starbucks coffee is found to be a little bit more than your normal home brew.
Oh, really?
A cup of coffee is not nearly as much as a tall.
Oh, so that was legit. Okay. I didn't ding him on it, but I just... Okay. So... Now he's happy. He slipped up. One of the problems is the social milieu. He did lose 25 pounds. All of it wasn't Starbucks, though, obviously. And he hung out with his dad. So this is a testimony from his dad. Sure is nice to sit back and drink a cup of coffee with you. And he has a picture of his dad. Secondary benefits. So anyway, so students, I guess the thing for me is that everything's connected to everything else. Once you start taking one action and paying attention to it, sorry about this, it leads to all kinds of other awareness. So it seems like saving napkins, it was almost like, should I approve that project? And I thought, why not? It's what she wants to do. Because it looks so tiny, But the way it influenced the whole business, it influenced her coworkers, it influenced me. I saw how valuable it was. And students are stewards. And I think that's one of the things I mentioned to some of the students in the room is that when I looked at your videos, I noticed that constituency was missing from what it appeared to be missing. And you did fill me in that a number of high school students are involved. But I think that's a very powerful group of people. And I hope there's opportunities for them to do more. And so you pick a small action, you set a time frame, you monitor it, and now it's real easy with all these little apps. Evaluate it and discuss it. And I think that's how a project like that can grow. And that's it. So I accept applause on behalf of my students.